Everyone, and happy Cinco de Mayo. This is a Monday front office update special from Scouting the League, but I am just the intro and question asker as our resident expert, Neil Stratton, has all things covered today. Before we jump in, let me remind you, like, subscribe, and share wherever you are listening and watching. Give us that 5-star review. Leave us comments. I am Rodrik David at RightStepADV. Head over, hit me on X there for anything you need. Neil Stratton alongside. He is at Inside the League. Neil, it is with much congratulations that some of these excellent scouts that are finding new jobs, again, pat them on the back, send them good job texts. On the other side, it's a tough business, and we will see that with a couple of these names. It is hard to get in. It's hard to stay in. But again, there's certainly some good people we're going to be talking about. Neither of us are ever going to celebrate people getting fired, even when it's sometimes maybe the writing's been on the wall, but we're always going to praise them. So let's start. Let's just jump in where there has been probably about as much movement as anywhere out in Las Vegas. John Spytek reshaping that staff. What have we seen from the Raiders?
Well, Brian Stark got named the assistant GM there, and I don't think that was a big surprise. I guess the only question was whether he would go to New York or to Las Vegas. He's kind of been in line for something for a long time. Maybe a bit landlocked in Denver, but having worked with both John Spytek, who's the new GM in Las Vegas, and with Darren Muji, who's the new GM in New York, I think it was a foregone conclusion he was going to be heading somewhere. And so he landed in Las Vegas. That's a big hire for John Spytek, and he kind of cleaned out a lot of the people that were in the upper level. I'm not celebrating that. I'm not criticizing it. I'm not applauding it. Those were all good people, but he had to kind of start restocking the cupboard, and that was a big hire for him. So Brian Stark is headed there. Another big hire, and I think the one that's been long overdue for those of us who kind of follow the Bar List Awards, and obviously we do, is Jonathan Stiegel, who's going in as the assistant director of college scouting. Jonathan has won, I think, 3 Bar List Awards. He may have come up short this past year, but the voting is always really tight. The bottom line is he's highly regarded. Been word around the league that he is closest to Spytek and that he was weighing a move, but I think for a number of reasons he almost stayed in New York, and I think that's probably because they didn't want to let him out of the building. But I think Jonathan's a real riser and a guy, I mean, my gosh, he's got 26 years in scouting right now with a number of franchises. And one of the points that I made in last week's blog post was he's worked for some heavyweight GMs, among them Howie Roseman, Tom Heckert. There's a couple others on there that are really good. And so he's seen some good people. And I think that he's going to do nothing but continue to rise. So I think the Raiders got a good one. And I think that they're going to really benefit from having those new faces there. And I don't think Spy's done yet. I think he's still got a couple openings there. Maybe he won't restock it to the extent that it was, but I would expect good things in forthcoming drafts from the Raiders based on the people he's got coming in there and the organizations that he's kind of drawn from. I think a lot of Jets fans were kind of shrugging their shoulders. The Jets fans always represent on Twitter whenever there's a move. And, there's a lot of good riddance that they don't know what they're talking about. I mean, yeah. It wasn't long ago that the Jets drafted the defensive rookie of the year and the offensive rookie of the year in the same draft. How often I don't know that's ever happened. I mean, it certainly hasn't happened since we at ITL started tracking things. That was a remarkable draft, and the Seahawks beat them by the skin of their teeth. I think for the 2023 draft, 2022, I'm getting mixed up. But Stiegel's a good one, and he's going to do great things for the Raiders. Stark's going to help too. For a team that drafted well last year as it is, I mean, they don't need a lot of help. And kind words for Tom Telesco here, who is another guy who I think has been very capable and didn't work out in Las Vegas. But, I think that they have got all the pieces in place for an excellent front office, an excellent scouting staff. A lot of other people we aren't even talking about right here. They've got veterans that are good, I guess is my point. So if I'm a Raiders fan, I'm happy right now. I'm pretty optimistic about how things are going.
Yeah, and I believe on the other side of those transactions, Curtis Knox and Sean Herrick, both guys that had been with the Raiders, both, again, guys with good reputations that, again, if they're seeking jobs, I think they certainly will have some. Again, what you've brought up the Jets, you talked about the Broncos, Brian Stark heading there. It's an interesting one for me as George Payton has been with the Broncos now, and obviously Sean Payton's run the show. Maybe it's a rhetorical question. Maybe I'll allude to again the way the power structure is with a Sean Payton on staff is that perhaps you're looking to get out of Denver if you're a scout, the way that is comprised. I don't know. That is strictly something I'm going to throw out there. Again, nothing from anybody that I've heard, but again, it is, it's one of those things from a scouting perspective. You look at who's got the final say, head coach, GM, who's the heavy hitter, who's got the real weight there. So again, we're obviously Denver, Brian Stark, we've got Darren out in New York as a GM out there. So are more changes going to be happening in the next week or two coming from Denver? Who knows? Again, you always follow those timelines, follow the people, and see where they end up.
I mean, I've talked about in other shows about how heavy a bat Sean Payton swings in the front office. He sort of did that in New Orleans. A couple of his moves didn't work out, and then he just went to Denver. So it worked out great for Sean Payton. There's been chatter that I've heard, not directly to me per se, but I guess maybe indirectly about how some of the Denver scouts are kind of like, who's making the picks here? And that's kind of what you get with Sean Payton, and for better or for worse. Now, if we see Broncos scouts leaving, and obviously we've already seen Brian Stark leave, there may be others that are in line for promotion. I don't think it's necessarily because of Payton. I think it's because they've got a talented front office. They won the Best Draft Award in 2022 for their work in 2021, and that was no fluke. They got an outstanding – they got an outstanding linebacker, an outstanding cornerback, and they continue to be, a solid organization. So I think there's guys there that are going to get rewarded, and I think they deserve those rewards. And I look forward to seeing where they go. Right now, no indication of where they're headed, but with Stark having moved on, there's going to be some movement there. What I've been told is that Reed Burkhardt probably gains a little bit more power there, maybe moves up some, and AJ Durso, who's the pro director there, may be in line for promotion as well. We'll have to kind of see how the dominoes fall, but they've got great scouts. There were two Broncos staffers that won Bart List Awards last year, Saywon Joe and Brian Chesson. They're both excellent. I can see Brian going to New York. He's in line for something, and so is Saywon. So a lot of good people there, a lot of good drafting, and I hope that they get rewarded for their efforts.
Yeah, certainly. Heading across the country, another spot where we've seen a lot of changeover, more exiting than entry at this point. But the Tennessee Titans, Mike Morganzi coming over from Kansas City, made a number of immediate changes. Obviously, changed some people out before the draft, and now we've got 4 other names that are out post-draft. Dan Sagany from Cleveland heading down to Tennessee. Talk to me about Tennessee changes.
Well, I think the chatter about them rearranging their pro department has been out there for a while. And so I guess it was just a matter of time. And it really wasn't much time when they started doing some real surgical moves there. Brian Gardner being out was a surprise to me. Here's another guy who has won a Bart List Award before. It boggles the mind how we see time and again these scouts who are being recognized by their peers that maybe don't have the same respect from their superiors in their own scouting departments. And so hopefully Brian will land on his feet quickly. Brian has got as much or more experience than Jonathan. We talked about Jonathan having, I think, 26 years. I think Brian has 28, and that's kind of the college and the pro side. So I think he'd be a good fit in a lot of places. Michael Johnson was let go as well, and one other name, Corey. I'm sorry, Corey, who was the scouting assistant. But the big story, of course, was AJ Highsmith. Now, AJ, this was not a move that was made because AJ is not competent or capable. It was made because he came in more or less as Rand Carthon's. He wasn't his assistant GM, Anthony Robinson was, but he was probably the next closest voice to Rand. As director of scouting. Director of scouting is such a nebulous term. I don't know exactly what that means, and I think maybe Mike Borgonzi kind of felt the same way. But with Rand gone, I guess it was just a matter of time until AJ was gone. But we're taping this Monday morning. I'm hoping that at least by Monday afternoon, going to be able to announce his next destination. It was never in doubt that he wasn't going to be out there for very long, but I think he's already plugged in somewhere else. That was a chatter that I was hearing late last week. So trying to get that confirmed and get that out there. But AJ's going to be a great addition to wherever he lands. And I think we're going to know very soon where that is. I think he's had a number of offers, I might add. So talented guy on the way up. Needle's certainly pointing up in his career, and looking forward to seeing where he goes next.
Let's talk about promotions. Again, when a John Spytek leaves, when you have people leave, you're going to get maybe an outside guy coming in. Oftentimes, again, what you really like to point to as a GM is, hey, we're just going to promote from within. We got a good staff. Sounds like that has happened down in Tampa with a couple promotions. What has Jason Light done down in Tampa?
Jason I don't think Jason gets enough credit for the job that he's done there. Was this 4 straight division titles? I think every year you hear that the NFC South is a lousy division, and the division's up for grabs, and we're going to see new people come in and steal that title. And every year, the Bucs kind of shrug their shoulders and win the division. So for that reason, Mike Beal and Rob McCartney both got new titles. I think they're warranted. Those are guys that I think that have gotten interviews before, will continue to get interviews. I think as long as the Bucs continue to have success, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. I mean, that division remains as muddled as ever, even though maybe the Panthers are kind of on their way up, and maybe the Falcons with that new quarterback. But the Bucs are a really good franchise. They won the best draft award for their work in the 2020 draft. That was the weird seminar we had online that that was obviously tainted by COVID and what have you when the combine was canceled. But just a great organization in my estimation, and I think they do things right. And I think Mike and Rob were rewarded with their new titles. But I don't think they're going anywhere soon. Although I don't think they're going anywhere soon, I think that's one of these days soon they probably will get recognized if the franchise continues to succeed, and I expect they probably will.
So let's talk about some of these names that are going to be maybe looking for new destinations. Again, there are many different reasons why these guys could be on the street now. Again, with Abrams out in Miami, again, you look at where he's at in his career. Again, he may just be choosing to hang it up and retire. He is a football lifer. You talk about Hinch in New England, Waugh in Jacksonville. Again, you can kind of see the reasons why. Another one, Mike DeReese up in New York. Again, talk about some of these guys that are now on the street and reasons why, what you've heard. Are we going to see their names come out? And again, is there anything other than, again, with Waugh in Jacksonville, fairly easy to follow that track. You were the interim GM. James Gladstone's there now. Job. Hey, it's just time for a new start.
That's a classic spoil system move, and again, all the Jacksonville fans were really out with their pitchforks when Ethan got let go. That's just a situation. Again, I recognize that the Jags have seen better days, but you're talking about a guy who came from a remarkably successful franchise. Maybe he was seen as Trent Baalke's boy. I know there's a lot of hate for Trent Baalke in Jacksonville right now. But Ethan Waugh is a guy that I expect to have a job again soon. He's got a long career in the business. He's got brothers in the business. May resurface on the college side. I could see that happening. He's got people skills for sure as well as football skills. So I think Ethan's length of unemployment will not be very long. But talking about some of the scouts who got let go, maybe the biggest story of the week happened after the Friday Wrap went out, and I started hearing that Mike DeReese may be gone in New York. I didn't believe it at first. I think Mike has won at least 2 Barts and maybe 3. I should have a better idea of all these. He's won 2. He's just a very competent scout, a very capable scout. He was with the Colts, who's another great organization, working with Chris Ballard, one of the more respected GMs out there. Now he goes to New York. He continues to be excellent. My understanding is that he got kind of sideways. There's maybe a bit of a personality conflict with Joe Shane. I don't have a lot of details there, but what I can tell you is it wasn't because of poor performance. And I know I personally reached I personally reached out to 14 GMs on Friday. GMs or DPPs or high upper level executives with NFL teams. Most of them expressed shock that this had happened, and so I knew that it wasn't going to be just me saying, "Hey, can you believe this happened?" I mean, to the ones that already knew about it were shaking their heads, and the ones that didn't know were really caught off guard. So, no surprise there. I mean, Mike's work speaks for himself. He's obviously won the respect of his peers, or he wouldn't be winning these awards. And I mean, now Mike's got a year left on his deal. He's also got very capable representation. I don't think Mike's going to be out there for long either. But whoever picks him up is getting a whale of a scout, and I look forward to hopefully reporting that soon about where he's going if he wants to. I mean, again, when you're being paid by a team and you got a year, and maybe he wants to sit out and kind of relax and enjoy his family for a little while. I wouldn't blame him for that, but I know that he'll be much in demand whenever the time comes that he wants to work, and I'm glad that he will be. I mean, there's just so much quality out there. And I know you haven't asked, well, you kind of referenced this. Jim Abrams is another guy. Maybe he wants to retire. I don't know. But Jim is, let's see, how many is Jim won? I think Jim has won 2 as well. I mean, wow. These guys, I've said this before on Twitter. NFL scouting is the only place where the more experienced you are, seems like the more likely you are to get fired. The level of regard and respect for the guys who are out on the roads, who are gathering the information, who are getting the stuff no one else knows. Sometimes I think there has never been less respect and regard for those people than there is today. And I think that is because we're seeing such young GMs being hired now. I mean, it's almost like 40 is the ceiling for if you're not hired by 40 now, you're never going to be hired as a GM. And I think because we've seen kind of that revolution in hiring practices that it's been extended to scouts. And if you are a guy who is experienced and has been out there, then it's almost like teams are like, what do we need this guy? He's never going to be a GM. Well, there's a lot of scouts have a lot to offer, even though they may not be on a GM track. And I think Jim is an excellent example of that. I think Mike is an excellent example of that. I think AJ is an excellent example of that. So there's probably as much or more scouting talent on the street right now than there ever has been. And we're just a week into scout hiring and firing season. I mean, as we discussed last week, there are a lot of teams that are waiting until after the second RMC to do their hiring and firing, to letting guys go. And I think that's very disappointing, because at the very least you want to give these men a chance to get plugged in as quickly as possible, explore their options, find out what's out there. And when you're a scout, you're going to hear, I guess, about teams that want to make moves. But if you're a guy who cares about the job that he does and has a level of professionalism, you're not going to go out and start looking for a new job before you need a new job. And so I think these guys need to be let go sooner if they're going to be let go. You mentioned Sean Herrock. I'm glad that the Raiders did what they were going to do with Sean. Sean's another guy who's got a lot of success, and he's one we should probably be talking about as well, as talking about veteran scouts that are looking at opportunities right now. And Sean, I think, already has his next destination, and that's one I hope to be announcing soon as well, with a good franchise. And just to be a little bit cryptic, at a place where an opening has been created recently. I'll leave it at that. But Sean won't be on the street long, but I hope that none of these guys are, unless it is by their choosing, because they have time left on their deals. And why not go spend some time with your wife and your kids and get away from the madness for a little while, get recharged, and then get ready to get back in and start doing more great work.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, this is the time of year, and really through the month of May, a lot of hiring and firing of new faces. One of the interesting, funny, things that happens with front offices is until July and August comes around and teams put out their directories, it's hard to know some of these, hey, they moved somebody around. They went from this area to this area, or they got an internal promotion for some of these stable organizations where, again, maybe it's nothing more than just low level promotion. It's still a promotion. You still like to pump those up. Again, Seattle went ahead and kind of did one of those with Brian Ayers. And again, I'm sure there's more of them happening where, again, the team's not putting anything out, and unless we hear about those, then again, it's hard to give them the recognition that they deserve. If you do have one, if you get one, if you know of somebody that got one, hit Neil up, hit me up. I'll just connect you with Neil. It's going to come out on Inside the League. That's the number one spot for all that. I think that's everything as of now. Again, it's going to be a busy week, Neil. You're going to be, I'm sure, tweeting. This may be these 2 weeks maybe be the most tweets, the most X's posts you put out all year as everything happens. So we'll be looking again, whether it's Sean, whether it's AJ, any of these guys, any of these names, hopefully hear new destinations for a bunch of them, right?
Well, yeah. And, there's people that will come to me and say, man, this is my favorite time of the year because I sit and watch you and just refresh your Twitter account. I mean, I take no joy in this, and I know you don't either, Rodrik, and no one that's in this industry is. I love to put out when people are getting promotions, and I love when people that have been let go that I know are good get new opportunities. But this isn't something that's fun for anybody, and I take no joy in it. I would say this is probably the 5th or 6th year that I've really focused on this, and now I will try to reach out to the person, and usually they have enough recognition of who I am that they know I'm not coming out trying to get after them or be disrespectful. I just want to confirm personally and try to help if I can. Josh Hinch is a good example. I think you mentioned him earlier in New England. I was surprised that he got let go. And when I heard about it, there were a number of people that told me how good he was. Now, I didn't know Josh, but after I've spoken to several scouts, I feel like I do have a much better handle on it. And I've tried to help him kind of have an idea of where the openings are, maybe they haven't been published or maybe that I haven't talked about, and maybe help him get plugged back in as well. I mean, when you come to people and this is the worst time of their lives, they just got let go from an incredible job. So I try to give them some hope and try to let them know about some opportunities because I don't want to be, the Grim Reaper all the time. It'd be nice to be able to kind of help people out. And so I try to do that. Yeah. So yeah, we're going to see more opportunities, I guess is a good way to put it, for hiring. I still am expecting something to happen, a little bit more to happen in Cleveland. I know that all the jobs aren't filled in New England yet. There's going to be some changes there. Obviously, the Jets have a national scout that needs to be replaced. And my understanding is that they've been doing some interviewing, but they don't know exactly what direction they're going to go just yet. So there's some opportunity there as well. Other teams, I'm not sure. But, as we've discussed previously, teams that have new or newish first year or second year GMs tend to be the teams where you're going to see the most transition. And so we'll continue to monitor them and see what's going to happen and see, if they stand pat or if they kind of make moves. Before we go, also, I just want to talk about Jacksonville. Remains a place that is just kind of a destination of wonder for a lot of teams. And I talked to a lot of people, and no one really quite knows what's happening. I mean, Ethan being let go, I think, was probably not a big surprise. He interviewed for the GM job, came from the previous regime. That was not a big surprise. But as far as who's coming in and what's going to happen, I'm probably going to be just as surprised as everyone else. I hope that I get a chance to put that stuff out there, but there's a great chance that I won't because it is just such a mystery. And I don't say that it's not a criticism. It's just I guess it's just an observation because James Gladstone remains such an enigma, maybe in a good way. I mean, obviously had a lot of success with the Rams and has got an opportunity quite early in his career, but just hard to know what his tendencies are going to be and what his philosophy is going to be and what direction he wants to go. So, but maybe we'll find out this week.
Certainly. The news will continue to roll in. Neil, other insiders could take a note from you. Be right. Don't just be first, and verify all that stuff. And again, that is why you are respected the way you are. So for everything you need on the hiring, firing, all the movements, all the change, make sure you're checking out Neil's X page. He is at Inside the League. Updates as they're happening, as they're getting put out there. So this is that time of the year for front office changes. Week 1 of rookie minicamp in the books now. Week 2 coming up, as Neil said, where a lot of these changes are going to happen. We even have an NFL schedule release coming up next week. So again, there's going to be plenty of NFL news. Make sure you stick around. Stay tuned for all things football with us here at Scouting the League. Agents, before we go, make sure you go check out Agent Live 360. It is at agentlive360.com for everything you need for your agency, from players to coaches, managing profiles, tracking invoices, sending invoices, getting paid, keeping up on every element of your entire agency. Notification emails, file folder storage, ROI, transactions, invoices, calendar, contracts, teams, reps, everything all in one spot for you. That is Agent Live 360. Hop on, request a demo. Yours truly will hop on, walk you through it. I can promise you we will talk some football as well. Sign up now with code TRIAL90 for a 90-day, 3-month trial at just $10 a month for Agent Live 360. That's at agentlive360.com. Go check it out now.